What's going on, YouTube? So, it's banlist season in Yu-Gi-Oh! So, people have already been debating about what's going to get hit and what's not. And I keep seeing debates everywhere about how Dragon is not going to get hit or Prophet is not going to get hit. And I am going to explain why all of them are wrong. Now this video is going to be primarily about the arguments I see as to why Dragon Rulers will not get hit. There are arguments as to why Prophecy may not get hit, and I will bring those up a little bit, but this is mainly about Dragon Rulers because I see a debate about that deck more than anything else. So, why do people think Dragon Rulers and Prophecy will not get hit? Reason number one. They haven't been around for long. Konami won't hit them because Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy still makes money. Well, you see, there were a lot of decks that existed for only one format and weren't around for long, and Konami still hit them even though they could have possibly made money. Inzektor was released in Order of Chaos, which came out in February of 2012. The deck was a top-level deck in the TCG, but it never really took off and won any events, but it absolutely dominated the OCG, to the point that aside from some small showings of Hero and Hieratic, Inzektor was the only deck, because Chaos Dragon and Dino Rabbit and Windup were not things because we had some exclusives that they did not have. Inzektor completely and utterly dominated the game, and they still could have very well made more money off of it because Order of Chaos was still a fairly new pack and could still make money. Lo and behold, come September, the entire deck was, well, it wasn't entirely slaughtered. I mean, Billy Brake took it to the next format and topped with it, but you know what I mean. That's the most recent example, but other decks have been around from several formats ago that were only around for one format before they got hit. Another example is Infernity. That deck came out at the beginning of the March... What March format was that? It was the beginning of the March 2010 format, right when Lightsworn and Zombies and everything died. The OCG got the Shining Darkness, and in it was the Infernity deck. Infernity was a major powerhouse deck and consistently topped that entire format. We got it in May, which means it had even less time to dominate in the TCG. And come September, Infernity Launcher went to 1 and Infernity was gone. Likewise, in the TCG, X-Sabers came out into the Shining Darkness in the middle of the format and quickly became the best deck, just with all the exclusives they had, plus Rescue Cat. And then come September, Rescue Cat got banned, and X-Sabers just slowly died a slow and painful death. Now for one more example that probably fits the better situation, as it was, at its time, it was the only deck that existed, would probably be Teledad. Teledad was legal for exactly one format, and that was the September 2008 format. It completely wrecked and dominated, and then come March it was gone. So, it's clearly obvious that even though Dragons and Prophecy are relatively new, because Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy came out in February in Japan and May everywhere else, it is still very clear that even though they can still make money off of it, Konami will probably hit those decks. Reason number two. The Dragon Tins are coming out at the end of August. Konami won't hit them because they won't sell the tins otherwise. This is the argument I see most often when I'm debating whether or not the Dragons will get hit this September. Think back to every other set of tins that has come out recently. Does the main card on the face of the tin usually sell that tin? No. Did you really buy the Hanzo tin because you wanted Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo? Did you really buy the Excalibur tin because you wanted Hero Champion Excalibur? No, you didn't want those. You wanted the super rares that were coming in the tins. You wanted Tour Guide from the Underworld, you wanted Rescue Rabbit, you wanted Max C, you wanted Scrap Dragon. And think back to the tins before that. Did you really want Majestic Red Dragon or Blackwing Dragon or Dragon Knight Draco Equist? No, you didn't. You wanted Dark Arm Dragon, you wanted Battle Fader, you wanted Blackwing Bayou, the Emblem of Honor. The super rares are what sell the tins. Now, having the 4 Dragon Rulers as the tins, like the tin mascots, that is a pretty good idea. It's a nice way to sell the tins, but it is not the only thing that will sell the tins. We have already had Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear confirmed for both tins, and that alone is enough to sell the tins, considering the fact that Fire Fist is getting an assload of support in Judgment of the Light. Not only that, the article that introduced the tins and announced them mentioned cards like Ally of Justice Catastor and Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning as possible promos. Those 2 cards alone will be enough to sell the tins, and the Dragons being limited would not affect sales of the tins at all. Reason number 3. Dragons will get hit in September, but it will be something obscure, like Super Rejuvenation or Gold Sarcophagus. While I wouldn't put it past Konami to do something silly and obscure like that, it would not do anything to hurt the Dragon decks at all, which I guess is probably a reason that people would think it would be what would happen. For one, Gold Sarcophagus isn't even used in 3s that much anymore. Patrick Hoban won the event using Dragon Rules, and he only made 2 Gold Sarcophagus. Because Gold Sarcophagus is great in the early game, but late game it gets worse and worse and worse, so there's no point in hitting a card that's not great all the time. I guess that's not entirely true, they hit Future Fusion. But Super Rejuvenation is often compared to Spellbook of Judgment because they both are the cards that generate so much advantage during the end phase. That shouldn't be a reason to ban Super Rejuvenation. Spellbook of Judgment is bannable in its own right, but that's because it runs the entire deck. Prophecy became the monster powerhouse deck that it was because Spellbook of Judgment was released. That was the only thing that they needed to become a massively overpowered deck. Dragons can still do all of their shenanigans with their dumping monsters from the board, reviving everything without Super Rejuvenation. That card just gives them a little more advantage to do it. Reason number 4. Better hit to Dragons would be hitting the Xyz monsters. Without Dracosac and Big Eye, the deck can't do anything. Yes, I agree that Big Eye is a bannable card in its own right just because its effect is that powerful, but if you hit Big Eye and Dracosac, that does nothing to Dragons. Yes, the current version of Dragons focuses on spitting out rank 7 monsters like it's nothing. Like, they can create Dracosac and they create Big Eye to generate a lot of advantage or to create a wall that is very, very difficult to get over. But that is not the only thing the Dragon Ruler deck can do. If you remember, at the beginning of the format, a lot of Dragon decks were running Light and Darkness Dragon because it was that easy to get out. Light and Darkness Dragon eventually fell out of favor just because Prophecy didn't have to worry about it because they generated so much advantage and they could kill it with 1 Priestess. But that doesn't mean Light and Darkness Dragon is a bad card in Dragon Ruler. You add other decks into the equation and Dragon Rules can suddenly destroy things with Light and Darkness Dragon and just how easy it is to get the card out. If you destroy the Xyz engine in Dragon Rules, they just default to Light and Darkness Dragon, which once again makes them a problem. Reason number 5. These decks are the symbol of power creep. They represent how the game will be from now on. No. 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 That is the stupidest argument I have ever heard, and I'm glad I don't hear it as often as the other 4. Yes, the Dragon Rulers and the Prophecy deck are the strongest decks that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever seen. I will not deny that. They put every other deck this game has ever seen to shame. But that does not mean that every deck in the future is going to be the same way. Have you looked at Judgment of the Light and Shadow Specters? None of the new decks from those sets can even hold a candle to Dragons or Prophecy. How do you expect those sets to sell if Dragons and Prophecy don't get hit? The OCG already has all of those decks and they're not doing anything. Likewise, just because Konami makes a certain format stronger in power than another format, like the previous format, that doesn't mean that's a symbol of power creep for the rest of the game. Think back to Phantom Darkness when they released Dark Arm Dragon and the Dad Return and Teledad decks became a thing. Did people really think that those obscenely fast games were going to be the only thing we saw for the history, for the remaining history of the game? Well, I guess maybe some people thought so, but it didn't turn out like that. There were several formats where the game was too fast in a row, admittedly. There was the Dad Return and Teledad, then Synchro Cat, then Light Swarm. But after that, we got to the Quick Draw format, which was considered one of the best and most balanced game formats that we had seen in a long time. And then it got fucked up by Axe Sabers. But Konami doesn't bump the power creep up in the game and then keep it like that. They will slow it down. Formats after the ones I just mentioned were slower, and especially a major factor was Heavy Storm being banned, which wasn't the best way to approach it, but it still slowed the game down. Likewise, after the March 2012 format, we were immediately followed by the September 2012 format, which is a lot slower and screw your opponent over styled than March 2012, and is considered one of the better formats we've seen in a long time. So just because the current format is really fast and powerful and it's all about generating advantage, that doesn't guarantee that the next format is going to be like that. One format could be drastically different from the format that preceded or comes after it. Now, I don't want to say that what I'm saying is the absolute truth, and that Dragons and Prophecy are definitely going to get hit down a level, there's always that small chance that Konami will leave the decks alone and they'll be a powerhouse for the next format. But I personally feel that given the evidence of like the future sets, along with past history with how the ban list is made, I don't think Dragon Rulers or Prophecy are going to be as powerful as they were in this format. I honestly think they'll get knocked down a peg. And I honestly hope that you guys see it too. So until next time, YouTube, I'll see you later. Deuces.